All the charts at NAVE work with your completed data except the cumulative flow diagram and the aging chart. The aging chart is one of the most powerful tools at NAVE. It enables you to track your current work in progress. It uses the same visual format as your Kanban board, with each column representing a status in your workflow. The aging chart shows how many days a task has already spent in progress. The colored zones in the chart are called health zones, and they represent a timeline. They visualize the amount of time that your completed work items have spent in progress as the work was moving through each process state. The dark green zone at the bottom represents the timeline at which 30% of your completed work moved through the workflow. The light green zone visualizes the timeline of 50% of your previous work. Then the yellow corresponds to 70%, the orange to 85%, and the light red zone indicates the amount of time that 95% of your completed items took to be delivered. If your dots are positioned above the light red zone, this means that your current tasks are spending more time in the process than 95% of your previously finished tasks spent in that specific state. In this example, the light green zone in the code review state points to 6 days. This means that by this point, 50% of our completed items spent up to 6 days in the workflow. We can see that there is an item in code review that points to 3 days. It is still in the light green zone. This tells us that this specific item has taken less time so far than 50% of our previous work, so it's moving predictably and within our expectations. Let's look into the item on the top of the testing phase. It is positioned on the border between the yellow and orange zone. This means that it has taken more time than 70% of our work in that process state. If your dots go into the red zone at any point along the workflow, this means that they're taking significantly longer than your previous work items and you're going off track. We already talked about the lines stretching across the graph. They are called percentile lines. Both the percentiles and the health zones represent the exact same thing. The only difference is that the percentiles show you how much time your previous items spent in the workflow overall, while the health zones show the exact same information split by process state. That is why the percentile lines always line up to where the health zones end. Tracking the position of your work items throughout the health zones is a powerful strategy for preserving the consistency of your delivery times. It also helps you figure out whether you're still on track with your commitments. If you've committed to delivering an item within 11 days, and this comes with an 85% probability of achieving that promise, then the goal is to make sure your item doesn't cross the 85th percentile. Ideally, your item should go through the workflow without crossing the red zones at any point along its life cycle. If it does, then you can take action on time and ensure that you keep your promises. And tools like the burn up and the burn down charts will also enable you to see whether or not you're still on schedule. But to take a step further and understand the actual reason behind your delays, you should look into the factors that hinder your performance. Don't fall into the trap of assuming things will go back on track if the team works hard enough. The aging chart will help you head in the right direction and stay on schedule while enabling a supportive environment at the same time. And I've been talking about stable systems for a while now. According to Little's law, maintaining a stable system depends on two main factors: your work in progress and your average age of work in progress. For these two metrics, the key is consistency. Stable systems are determined by keeping both your WIP and the average age of your WIP consistent. And the more stable your delivery workflow is, the more predictable it becomes. The average age of WIP and cycle time are essentially the same metric, only cycle time is measured against completed tasks, whereas the age of a task is a measure concerning tasks that are still in progress. If the average age of your WIP stays roughly equal on a daily basis, then its trend line will be linear, neither increasing nor decreasing over time. This means that you are maintaining a stable system. If you find that the line is sporadic, at times increasing or decreasing dramatically, this points to an inconsistent average age and at the root cause of these spikes, bottlenecks in the system that need to be addressed. The aging chart allows you to change your basis date to see how your process looked like on a certain day in the past. It is very useful during retrospectives to see how your tickets were aging back then. For example, if you observe that your average age of WIP was very high, you can go back to that specific date and see which work items caused that behavior in your system. You can then have a conversation and think about how to tweak your management practices to make sure you improve your workflow. Now, let's go through the approaches to measuring the throughput in your workflow.